A recently published McKinsey & Co. report states that 46% of existing work activities in Australia could be automated by the year 2030. This means as many as 6.5 million jobs could be lost to automation over the next decade. These percentages may easily be transferred to the US and UK. Artificial intelligence, also abbreviated as AI, and automation are no longer pipe dreams or something held in the imagination of sci-fi writers. This is real. It's happening now. And through sheer disruption, future tech will have our attention. The question is, will it catch you, your family, your vocation, your business, your community off guard, or will you be prepared for the impact future tech will have on the way of your being? Sure, AI and automation will create new jobs, new economies, new opportunities, but it will have us all asking deeper questions of worth and value as previous personal value propositions are replaced. I mean, can you imagine that up to a third of your country's industrial workforce being replaced by automation, only to be left with asking the questions like, if I don't do this, then who am I? So what does this mean for those concerned with spiritual things? What does it look like when future tech, humanity, and spirituality collide? Well, I think we may be once more forced to consider what it means to be human. My name's David Tensen, and in the next 20 minutes, I've recorded a conversation that I had with someone who spent many years considering, watching, and investing in this future space. He's a follower of Christ, an articulate speaker, and, in my opinion, a great thinker. He oversees around 120 international staff for CV Global, an organization that exists to share the hope of Jesus to millions of people, both online and on the ground in developing nations. Stuart Cranney is one of my favorite people to converse with, and someone I'd consider to be an important voice amidst the uncertainty and redemptive possibility of future tech, humanity, and spirituality. I'm sharing this with permission in hope that I'll hear from you. And I'd like to know, is this conversation something you or your people, the people that you know, is it something you're interested in being a part of? Do you want to hear more of this stuff? Is this topic of future tech, humanity, and spirituality, if this were a podcast, what value would it bring to you and your world? Let me know by Facebook or comment on the blog or the video where you're viewing it. You can always email me at davidtensen@gmail.com as well. Now here's the conversation with Stuart Cranney. So Stu, at the end of the last segment, we talked about conversation. We had a conversation about conversation, and it led to something that I know is sort of always sitting under the surface of passion for you, and that is and that is sort of the role of automation and its impact on humanity. And we've had conversations before, and it's been enlightening to me because a lot of people tend to think, oh my gosh, robots are going to take over the world, and what's that impact on people and jobs, and can anything good come out of this? Now, of course, there are conveniences, but as far as the core of who we are, and maybe even in a redemptive storyline, a biblically redemptive storyline, what do you see as happening on the horizon? And because I know it's a place of passion, and CV's doing work in artificial intelligence, etc. as well. So, and then its impact on CV and everything. So let's just open up that box there, and would love to.
Yeah, it's a massive topic, and it's true. I am passionate about it. It's one of the areas that, particularly this year as well, we want to invest a lot of effort, a lot of energy into thinking about how we can harness the opportunities of some of these technologies like AI and automation and others for mission. Yeah, you know, but yeah, the whole topic of the future and automation, and when we say the future, I like to say the future present, because it is the future, but it's also now. You know, we are living at the beginning, really, the beginnings of what many are calling the technological era. Yeah. And many believe that that this new era is likely to have as much kind of impact on society, or more perhaps, as, say, the industrial era,
which is
would have had.
Unthinkable.
Which is unthinkable, and especially for our generation, because we live at the kind of mature stages of that whole era. But if you think about the people who lived in the time where that change occurred and lived part of their lives on the other side of it, and the mass displacement, the change, the confusion, everything is new and happening, and things haven't sort of settled down into the new norm yet. We are likely approaching that phase when it comes to the impact that technology will have on our societies. And technologies like AI and automation are particularly likely to have that effect because of their ability to just change so much of the way that we live our lives, redefines the work that we do. It redefines the jobs that exist. You think about all the people who are training for vocations now that probably won't exist in the way that they imagine they do today by the time they've done their training. You know, that's a common scenario that's starting to be talked about, a world where we share what we typically identify as work with the world of robotics. You know,
so it's slightly different to, like, when I was born, there was, you know, the internet didn't really exist, and in my 20s I did a lot of web design, and I joke to say, you know, if I growing up, and if I told my mum I want to be a web designer, she'd say, well, you're not Spider-Man, honey, get another kind of job, because it didn't exist yet. So there was people are born today getting different jobs, but it's not, I'm not hearing that same sort of thing here.
That's different, but I think the bit that you mentioned before is there's a lot of cause for concern, and I think that's reasonable. And there's a lot of effort, I'm sure,
because there's a lot of uncertainty.
And the reality is, just like it was for the Industrial Revolution, it was messy, like all revolution. Any major change that collides into whatever the norm is at the time, that just creates a lot of displacement.
Because it made world wars bloodier, bigger. I mean, we're happy to have the electricity in our homes and steam engines and all that, but it had this impact on humanity.
Yeah, absolutely. It changed the way industries operated. It changed the way the jobs that people did. I mean, we're talking about job obsolescence now of certain industries, but the same was true back then. Suddenly factories emerged, and things that would have been artisan craft, small scale work has suddenly been done by machines and
done en masse.
And what that meant for things like transportation and forms of transportation that just kind of disappeared.
And what it meant for the work week,
almost.
like something that's always been a passion of my heart is families. And how just even over the last couple hundred years, especially on the other, you know, because of the Industrial Revolution, because of the world wars, the whole dynamic of family changed. Wars meant that, you know, fathers weren't from home, and women went to the workforce, and women earned the money. So currency changed, trade changed, the family changed, and what it meant. You know, social status changed as well. Identity, a sense of who we are and who I am and what we do, out of an agricultural thing into this very different age where we've never been there psychologically before as a species. Do you know, like it's a massive thing, and it's continuing.
Yeah, that's right.
But to some element, a lot of that's ending.
Yeah, that's right. And but I think the positive news is that and we can use the language of it's redemptive, and I think that it is that when we step into a world where we're no longer defined by the work that we do in the way that we have done it, in so much that our value is so tied to the kind of tasks and that kind of process work that we do, because in reality a lot of that stuff is going to be subject to change and automation. That where is our value where do we find what our real value is.
Where do we draw identity
where
from?
would you draw our identity from? And I think it leads us to a journey to rediscover who we really are. And our value proposition in terms of work will be unlocking some of those things that have always been there, but because our value has been on the kind of tasks that have defined the world of work for, a long period of time now, it's going to cause us to kind of have to rediscover that. And I think that's ultimately, albeit probably a messy transition, that's going to be a really positive thing.
So we'll become more human.
I think so.
So the change will force us to no longer, we won't have as many options to look externally and draw identity from the work of our hands or the things that we do. And we're just going to be left with what, inside?
Well, I think the thing that will make our work valuable, because look, we are not going to compete on the level of anything that is kind of process orientated, predictable patterns of work. All of that stuff is immediately subject to a world of automation, and that is coming very fast.
And we all love it.
And we
right, like the other day I booked my restaurant, got on Google, I could get book time done 1 minute, and I was like, this is awesome. But then I realized that was somebody's job.
That's someone's job. So we love it when, as consumers, it conveniences us, but when it impacts us, maybe we experience
maybe you were that call center person. Maybe you were the checkout person at the supermarket.
And
now that's gone.
But the good news is that doesn't define you. Now, that doesn't mean that this isn't a huge challenge to transition as a society, but equally, your ability to build a brick wall course by course doesn't define who you are. Your inherent true value as a person isn't found in your ability to do that. Even though your ability to do that has created meaningful work, it's created value for you and your family and all those things, it's not your true value. And as people, anything that is like that, that's repetitive, that's process orientated, how are you going to compete with a machine that never sleeps, never has a bad day, isn't subject to, illness or any of those things? It's 24/7 all of the time, optimized, predictable,
certain, all those things,
and eventually very low cost. You go, well, so the things that we will do once those things are handled by other things are the things that only humans can do. And I think that's going to cause us to appreciate in a fresh and more meaningful way our creativity, the source of inspiration, understanding the real power of what resides within us. People who carry the divine imprint of God. We're image bearers of the God who created us. And I think that this is...
So not image bearers of the things we create.
Exactly. And I think when this becomes our value proposition, and we learn to kind of work inside of those things more and more, it's going to cause us to appreciate them more. It's why, being more aligned to our true self is going to be the most valuable thing we can offer to the future of work.
And is that part of the reason that there is this focus here in this season on maturity?
Well, it's part of it. I think it affirms it. I think it says it matters in that sense as well. Because whether we're preparing for that now or not, that seems to be the path that we're all going to find ourselves on, where things that we've come to just expect are work and reliable things may not be there in the same way in the future. So we're all going to be there, whether we realize it or not. But I think it matters for us now because the work that we do is not process orientated. It is not predictable. It's not demeaning those forms of work, but that's not the work that we do. And the priorities for us is how can we unleash our creativity? How do we unleash our innovation? How do we dream of things that we've never dreamt of before and be able to respond to those and put plans into action.
Yeah.
Where does all of that come from? That comes from who we really are.
Yeah.
And so anything that we can do that helps to nurture people to become more aligned with who they really are, to mature as people, to be able to appreciate those things in each other, so that we can not only contribute our own skills and abilities and things that flow out of who we really are, but when we do that collectively, that's when we start to see like collective intelligence rise to the surface. Not just our individual abilities, but yours plus mine and everyone else's.
Yeah.
That becomes powerful.
Which brings us back to, I guess, this whole role of conversation.
Yeah.
It's not automation.
That's right.
There has to be conversation.
That's right.
It's not commands for a particular, input for particular output.
It has to be relational. It has to be intrinsically human.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
and conversation facilitates
and that's the thing,
that.
right? We're having to now ask the question, what does it mean to be human?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. And I think it's a great opportunity too for CV on mission to share a human message of a God they thought was once distant, comes in the flesh, has conversation, and invites us into a constant conversation.
Yeah.
And is okay with our humanity. In fact, the invitation is to our humanity.
Yeah.
Not our pretend self.
Yeah.
Not our constructed self out of what we do. There's that classic line, we're human beings, not human doings. Yet we so often are able to draw our identity, build our container from what we've done. Our ego loves that; it needs that. Yeah. But this is a real kick in ego's head, right?
Yeah.
As people are losing. It's going to be messy, I think, from a sort of a therapist background. It's going to be really messy, but I think it's going to be wonderful.
Yeah,
like it's going to be a glorious mess. Sure, anxiety and depression and those sort of things are going to be on the rise. No one likes them, but if we understand what they indicate, and people do the real work and say, well, maybe I can let that go.
Yeah,
and maybe. As we've just said, there's an image. Well, if whose image am I made in, and what's it like to be uniquely me, aside from all this external construct?
Yeah.
Then wow, what a opportunity to be, sharing a message.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Of a divine God who came in the flesh through Jesus. And showed us what it's like to be human. I think Jesus didn't come to show us what a Christian's like.
Yeah.
He came to show us what it means to be human, to really be fully human.
Yeah.
And that's an amazing proposition.
It's an amazing proposition, and it's an amazing opportunity because the world is going to be asking those same questions.
Yeah.
What does it mean to be human?
Yeah.
And how amazing if we have an answer that can resonate with people and fill the void and anxiety of where some of those questions are.
Awesome. Thanks for your thoughts.
Thank you.
Thanks. Well, thanks for listening, friends. Again, I'd like to know, is this conversation something you or people you know, is it something you're interested in or interested in being a part of? Do you want to hear more conversations and interview with Stuart and others working where future tech, humanity, and spirituality collide? If this were a podcast or video, what value would it bring to you and your world? Let me know via Facebook or comment on the blog or where you see this video. You can always email me at davidtensen@gmail.com. Again, I'm David Tensen. Thanks again for listening. Hope to hear from you soon.